Hello everyone. So today we are with Mr. Varun Satia, who is the co-founder and the chief spokesperson and the creator of Kraftshala. Mr. Varun is the alumni of BITS Pilani and FMS Delhi. Previously, he has worked as a brand manager of India's one of the most loved brand Maggi. And in 2015, he has co-founded Kraftshala. And in this interview, we'll try to get to know more about Mr. Varun himself and his creation Kraftshala. So I welcome Mr. Varun, sir. Welcome to our show and interview, sir.
Thank you very
So
much. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, sir. So I'm actually looking forward to the interview, sir. So yeah. So I just go ahead with my first question, sir. So you have, sir, you are an entrepreneur. You have actually had a previous startup too, and then you co-founded Kraftshala. So you certainly like entrepreneurship. So I just wanted to know what about entrepreneurship excites you, and what inspired you to be an entrepreneur?
Sure. So I'll answer the second question first. So my journey with entrepreneurship started back in undergrad. Um, I was one of the students who co-founded the entrepreneurship cell at BITS back in the day. This was before entrepreneurship was a sexy word. So we're talking about 2006 essentially. I went on to lead the entrepreneurship cell for a couple of years. And then I started a platform. Once again, this is 2008. I worked on a platform which was originally co-founded by a couple of Harvard graduates for student businesses in India. So at that point, there was, for the first time, a jump in businesses and startups that were coming out of campuses. And this particular platform was created to serve their specific needs, because students have a lot of knowledge gap in terms of doing business on campuses. And so we created this platform. I led the India team. That startup was sold in 2009, which is when I straight away went to an MBA. So I graduated from BITS and then straight away went to an MBA. This was happening on the side. The MBA degree is obviously a degree to train you for large organizations. Collegedunia obviously is an exception. So it's great that you've ended up working there. But if you go back to your own campus, all the aspirational companies are large companies, large established companies. Everyone wants to really work in there, and all the placement processes are designed for that. So that degree I found was interesting, interesting sort of a move in my career. I didn't expect it to be this large company oriented, but there are massive advantages of working in a large company as well. So I went in and worked at Nestle for about 4.5 years, largely in marketing, a little bit in sales. But the idea of entrepreneurship was always there. So I saw an opportunity. The opportunity appealed to me to some extent, and I jumped at it when the moment came in. Um, uh, Having spent some time building the Maggi brand, so I spent almost about 3 years on Maggi, a little over 3 years, out of which in fact 3.5 years, out of which 2 years was on Maggi noodles, a year and a half before that was on sauces. So by that point, there is enough arrogance that is built in that you must understand marketing if you can drive a business of many crores. And it took in all of, I think, a month for that arrogance to come crashing down, as I realized that a huge difference between starting something fresh and running a brand which has been built over decades. And although you anticipate it, like it wasn't as if that I thought it would be the same, but still I thought my skills would hold me in good stead. Instead, what I had to do was to do a lot of unlearning. That first venture in education wasn't Kraftshala, which is what I do. It was in the education space, but with something else. And it was essentially the high school competitive exam space. It's a space that I personally never really connected with. I did not enjoy my time in that process. I don't think any one of us really does. And so when the product was sort of not working out as well as I thought it would, I took that opportunity to shut it down. Of course, I was doing that thing alone, so the decision was easy to shut it down. And a bunch of learnings came from that process. One was obviously to not work alone. and to do the next one with someone that I could actually build this out together with, but also to build something that truly spoke to me as an individual human being. Because what happens that initially businesses go through very frequent phases where there doesn't seem to be a tomorrow, where
Right.
working on it seems like a futile exercise that is inevitably going to lead to failure. And uh, and how long that phase exists, of course, varies. But the fact that it is going to happen is a given. And at that moment of time, you either need an absolutely unimaginable belief in yourself to pull it out, which I don't think most people have. I think belief is important, but an irrational belief is not something that most people are born with. Certainly, I have not been blessed with that. What I have been blessed with is when you're building something that appeals to you, that you think deserves to be in this world, then you're able to rationalize it by telling yourself that even if I fail, the attempt is worth it. And there were a lot of times in the initial times in Kraftshala where I thought there won't be a tomorrow, but I have this batch of students in front of me that I could help out. And let me just focus on the now and spend the next 2 hours focusing on building their skills up and not worry about whether this is going to go anywhere else or not. And I think that learning came from having worked on a product that did not appeal to me in any way. So that was my sort of journey into entrepreneurship. To the first question that you asked, what is exciting about it? I think the ability to add value. I think that's very important to me as a human being. I think it's important to many of us, or most of us, I would say. And I think that as an entrepreneur, you get tremendous opportunity to add value, not just to people who consume your product. In our case, education obviously is life-changing, and Kraftshala is building life-changing experiences, right? We don't create a bunch of videos and then people see it and it doesn't matter. We get a student in, we make sure that they have a transformative experience such that they themselves can reflect upon their journey and just look at how far they've come about. So I think adding value to consumers is obviously important, but you, as an entrepreneur, you get an opportunity to add value to every stakeholder, especially your employees. I didn't realize this when I started that this is going to be the case, but I think that you make a massive difference in the lives of the people who work with you, who become your friends and colleagues, and much more. And I think that probably is a massive driving factor for why I think entrepreneurship is exciting personally for me.
Thank you for your thank you for actually describing the entire journey for you. It was actually insightful. So, sir, you mentioned that you worked with Maggie for good 3 years, and then you co-founded Kraftshala. So, I actually wanted to connect the dots, which leads me to my next question. So, what made you basically start in the edutech sector, and what keeps you connected in this industry?
I think for me, okay, so let me phrase it in this way. Entrepreneurship is very hard work, and it's not like academics hard work, because it's not boring per se, right? There's nothing boring here. High stakes, life changing. Sure, you have to do a lot of boring tasks along the day. So, for example, if you don't enjoy operations, if you don't, personally, I don't enjoy looking at accounts too much, but I have to look at part of the job. So it's not as if there are no boring tasks out there, but largely it's about working tremendously hard on something and not worrying about whether it's boring or not. Right. And you can do that if the goal matters, if the purpose matters. So for me, it was always about, if you're going to succeed, most times entrepreneurs fail, and most times they have it's a great learning and a transformation journey, but for me, it was always that if I'm going to fail, at least I want to fail at doing something that was meaningful and valuable. So for me, the only companies that I've ever founded were value addition companies. The first education company that I started was also that, and Kraftshala obviously does that in a much more substantial way. So in that context, I think education is obviously a big big way in which you can add value to people. Of course, it's not the only way that you can do it. But I also think that that in many ways it's hard to look past education. I think that a lot of entrepreneurs in India who build other businesses wish they could build successful education businesses, because everyone recognizes it's important and everyone recognizes just how bad our sector is. And the more you spend time in the Indian education sector as a student, the more you realize how bad it is. So you might think that, oh, like school is bad, but try college. And if you think college is not great, you should try postgrad in India, right? Which is why so many bright students try to leave the country and try to go outside, because it is not a great experience for most of us. So it's a problem that I think appeals to everyone, and certainly it is a problem that allows me to spend a lot of a lot of my time investing in it, because it's a problem worth trying to solve.
Thank you, sir. So, sir, basically, you described that you are actually passionate about education and adding value to the education industry. So, when did you find Kraftshala? Who were the co-founders? And when you were actually thinking of creating Kraftshala, what was the school of thought behind it?
Yeah, so actually, Kraftshala did not really start as a business because I didn't think that that a business was viable from the idea that it originated. Like I mentioned at the start, I went to work at Nestle on Maggie and KitKat and a couple of other initiatives, and most of what I learned about marketing and sales happened while I was working on those brands, and I felt that that doesn't necessarily need to be the case, because there were also the odd professor at my own institute who had added value to me, as well as people since then who had been able to add, who had been able to teach me things about marketing when I was sort of young in my journey. And the common thread there was that all of them had real world marketing and sales experience. And that was the distinguishing factor that I thought, that I continue to believe is the driver of all applied education, which is all your business education, all your design and sales, and all these topics which are where concepts become intelligible only if you apply them. If you don't apply them, or if someone doesn't bring you insights from what happens when you apply them, then the learning doesn't really hit at. So in that sense, Kraftshala first thought was it was a project. It wasn't a business. It was for me to take out what I had learned in my marketing journey and bring it to students of some of the elite campuses in India. So I started taking sessions in SP Jain and FMS, and I'm Ahmedabad, and I'm Koikor, and I'm Bangalore, and so on and so forth. And gradually these sessions started to get popular. And that sort of was the first indication for me that there is something here that we could explore potentially as an online education platform. So we were online from day one. Even though we were doing sessions, most of those sessions were free. They were intended to sort of just make sure that students understand what they're getting into once they get into the real world, and also obviously help them from a placement point of view. And so therefore from that started our first program, which was a program in marketing, which was offered to students of select business schools. Obviously we wanted to offer it to a lot more students, but you have to start someplace. So we picked the top 12 institutes in India, the top 6 IIMs, ISB, FMS, SP Jain, and we created a program which was built entirely by practitioners, where students would not learn by listening to these practitioners. They would learn by solving problems. So they would come into the program and start solving problems in marketing and sales on day one. And to help them solve these problems, you would have insights and sessions and all these great frameworks that we had created with the help of these practitioners. And so the program would go week by week. Students would solve a different problem week by week. And once they solved a problem, they would get coached on those problems by another practitioner. And this was important because the practitioners really help you not just figure out all the different ways in which you've gone wrong, but also all the other ways you could have potentially gone wrong, because that's the experience that they are bringing in. So that added a massive value. And all of this was, was done while students were still pursuing their degree. So from that original starting point, we went with those programs to the next 30 or 40 schools. Then we created a program for working professionals in marketing, or who wanted to get into marketing, and we were doing allied things until then. That's called Professional Brand Management in the Digital Age. That was launched in 2019 approximately, and it became our largest program last year. But last year, we also created a new program that this year is becoming our largest program, higher than Professional Brand Management. And that is for students who've recently graduated from college, undergrad, and want to start a career in marketing. And this is different from our earlier programs, because while we continue to build it with practitioners and it's very project forward and all of that, those things, but this is a full-time program. So you start studying at 10 a.m. in the morning, and activities go on, obviously, with breaks up until 8 p.m. in the evening. And so this is a 20-week program. Students study full-time for 12 weeks. Then they intern in an organization for 8 weeks, applying all that they've learned over the first 12 weeks. This includes, learning human skills as well as functional skills. And then once they do well in that organization, they get confirmed by that same organization. So week 21 is basically them joining the organization and continuing in a full-time role. So we started the first batch last year. That first batch was of 21 students. All 21 students got jobs from the internship itself. So all 21 converted their internships into full-time offers, which because you're from a business school, you will know doesn't happen all that often. Something or the other does go wrong all the time. So obviously it speaks to the students doing well, but it also speaks to a massive need of this talent at the entry level that organizations are looking for. There's really, it's not as if there are no jobs in India. There are a massive number of jobs in India, and it's just growing at an exponential pace. It's just that you need the right skills and the right attitude to go with it, which sort of really comes in. And some great organizations, participated in it. India's largest marketing agency and Splashlearn, and all of these great organizations sort of combined, and we have our next batch, which is now sitting in for placements as well. So that's essentially been Kraftshala's journey. I'll mention one point here, which I know will probably be one of the questions that you'll ask me in any case, which is I think perhaps the best thing about the Marketing Launchpad is that it is a pay after placement model. So you pay once you get a job in marketing. And if you don't get a job under a 4.5 lakh CTC, then you don't pay anything, right? And that is, I think, quite important for people, because it allows you to focus on your studying and not worrying about where is the money going to come from? Is this going to go into waste? Can my father or mother help me with this? How do I get a loan? All of those things are essentially taken care of. You simply focus on learning. And once you get a job is when you pay. And obviously, if you get a job of a higher package, then you pay a little more. But if you get it at the base level, which is 4.5 lakhs, then you pay less, right? So it incentivizes us in the same way that it incentivizes our students. And 4.5 lakhs is nothing for the kinds of jobs that we are sort of getting in. These students are going to be earning twice or thrice pretty soon, that amount, right? So it's going to be 10 to 15 lakhs pretty soon. And that is a much better way of building your career rather than all the other things that are unfortunately called education, but are really sort of, just glorified credentials, really. They don't really offer any learning, but they give you that credential.
Right, sir. So, sir, you mentioned that you started off with just 12 institutions, and then you mentioned about a new brand management program, then another program, which all your, like the recent two programs have both been a big hit. So I want to understand, and I believe the students who would be viewing this, the B School students or the aspiring B School students who would be viewing this, they would want to understand from you, which leads to my next question is, when they log on to the kraftshala.com website, like in the layman's language, in the most easy language that they can understand, what exactly would Kraftshala offer to them in terms of product or services, or what can Kraftshala do for them when they come onto your platforms?
Great. So Kraftshala essentially offers programs which are created with the industry, which are meant to accelerate your career depending on where you're at right now. So the marketing launchpad is for people who are essentially have graduated recently, whether that's last year or a couple of years before that, or even this year, and want to start their career in marketing. There are other programs for people who already have gotten into a business school, especially in the top 50 or 60 business schools, and who want to use these programs to essentially do better in the placements that they're going to encounter on their campuses, and obviously once they join in as well. And for that, we run a separate selection process. You can't just log into the website and apply. I mean, of course, you can apply, but there are certain times in the year when we open applications, and there are certain quotas for each campus that is set in, because those programs are sort of highly sort of oversubscribed, because those are our oldest programs. So there's only a certain limit that we can take in there. And then if you're already, are in a marketing career and you want to accelerate this further, that's where our third program comes in, which is brand management in the digital age, right? And that is just an outstanding program to sort of take in, because that really gives you both the bird's eye as well as the detail eye view of marketing, helps you solve a range of marketing and growth problems. So that's essentially where we're at. And all of these programs help you accelerate your career. So if you are a fresher and you don't have any networks to speak of, then the marketing launchpad pretty much takes care of everything, right? Because you come in, there is a classical placement process and everything. Take care of everything within the program. When it comes to B schools, the companies are already going to come in, but not every company is aspirational, right? So how do you actually get in the companies that are really outstanding and are valued by you and those companies who give a great career? So we help you do that, because once you do well in this program, those recruiters see your performance in the Kraftshala programs and they tend to prefer those candidates. And similarly, when it comes to professional brand management, the way you're hired as a professional, as a lateral professional with experience, is very different from the way you're hired on campus. So there we have a separate track called career acceleration module for professionals, which is a parallel track that runs into the functional training, right? And that's a completely different approach and a completely new approach that's quite, I think, revolutionary in the way that it solves the problem of working professionals getting hired.
Yes, so I understand. Thank you for the detailed description. I mean, it would be useful for our viewers. But what I'm and my another question would be, like you described the programs that Kraftshala offers and that it accelerates people's career basically. I'm sure there are a lot of Edtech players who offer the same kind of basically programs to B school students or any student whatsoever. So what I want to understand, and I'm sure what my viewers would try to understand, is how is Kraftshala unique for them?
Great. So when it comes to the marketing launchpad, there isn't a program like that. As far as I am aware, there is no program in India which will say that come in, join the program if you clear the selection process, and we will only charge you once you get a job above 4.5 lakh rupees. And by the way, if you don't get it, you don't pay anything. There's nothing like that exists in. It is a one of its kind, and it is probably the best route for anyone trying to pursue a marketing career when they are, let's say, when they're young and just want to explore what the world outside typical coding and data careers looks like, right? So that is a clear differentiation. When it comes to the other programs, you will find the same differentiation in everywhere, right? Because the tangibility to careers is strong. With the only program for business school program for current business school students, which has over 50 recruiters looking at the performance of the students in these programs and just the act of getting into these programs, right? There's no other program that does it, which means no other program really helps you get that edge once you're sitting for the placement process. And for professional brand management, I think that once again, I think the fact that it is built entirely by practitioners, and the fact that it has transformed people's careers, right? So many of us want to get into marketing, but because we get into, let's say, a sales job or a research job or a consulting job after an MBA, we don't have that opportunity anywhere. Or we get into marketing, but then we realize that there are so many things I'm not getting exposed to, right? So there isn't a program like professional brand management in the digital age in that sense. And with camp coming in, I think it's a different offering altogether. So one of the things that we have focused on is, by staying very domain focused, we have built out things which are uniquely relevant to the audience, and something that our students really care for, which is not just a great program from a learning point of view. Obviously, that's important and that's critical, but a program that helps me get to my career goal in the short term and in the long term, right? And that's why I don't think that there are equivalent programs out there.
Right. Sir. I do believe that is a brilliant USP to have, sir. So now our next question is more of an industry-based question. So post-COVID, there has been a lot of boom in the industry, in the Edtech industry. So right now the things are calming down. So my question is, post-COVID, like for example, after some time, would this boom sustain, or would this boom fall eventually?
When COVID happened, the first boom came in the online courses, which were very cheap, right? So like, let's say like a Udemy course, 350 rupees or any of this. So those platforms saw a massive boom because people couldn't go out, and these were the most affordable courses which are out there. And now you have these bunch of other platforms which some build their courses with celebrities and so on and so forth. I think that is a excellent trend, and I think that that trend has stabilized, and now it will continue to see incremental growth. But it's not revolutionary in its for its users, because while you can learn a lot by looking at videos, they are largely there for you to get superficial understanding of any topic. So if you're in a business development role, you can get an understanding of what all is in business development through a course like that, but you can't really actually do business development by taking a course on a Udemy or on some other platforms, right? Yes. So that's the limitation of those platforms, but they're still great because they give access to lots and lots of programs, lots and lots of areas which students can use in. And I think that need will always be there. New things will come up. Tomorrow, if there is a course on how to do a great interview, for example, you might want to take that up, right? There might not be a detailed program like that, but people will build something like this. So that's great, and I think that will continue. Then there was the second boom which happened, where a lot of detailed programs such as ours saw an increase in adoption. So we saw, for example, brand management in the digital age sort of really spiking last year after COVID had happened. And I think that is the boom that will only sustain differentially. So where programs are actually delivering career outcomes, those programs will continue to see a massive increase. So for example, for us, this year is actually much faster than last year. Even though last year was great, this year is at a different level altogether. Because what happened was that people learned about Kraftshala last year, but now they're really seeing the impact of it on students' careers. And so now there is an even greater demand that is coming in. So there is a differential thing which is happening in that, where the career outcomes are strong in our kind of detailed immersive programs, which are really meant for career upliftment. They're not just meant for superficial learning or just to arouse curiosity or satisfy curiosity. They're meant to make sure that you get good at something. So in that sense, in those kinds of programs, you will always you'll find that there is a differential piece. And what we are estimating is that a lot of institutes which offer purely credentials and no other experience to speak of right? Imagine, you are AICTE approved, so therefore you can offer an MBA. But what is the value of that MBA? There isn't much value of that MBA. But parents send their children there because Shah Rukh Khan did an MBA in K3G, and that has always meant that MBA is great. But MBA might enhance your arranged marriage prospects. But an MBA like that is not going to help you in getting a job, because you're not learning anything that you can apply. Right? So in that, and because you don't learn any great skills initially, therefore you are set in that career. So it's such a damaging thing to do, that you're paying money, you're wasting your time, and you're getting set on a stream that is always going to hold you back. I don't think that those institutes are going to find. I don't think those institutes are going to find a lot of relevance even as the COVID crisis recedes. I think that the time of those institutes to end has come in, and it's high time, because most of our students actually go to institutes like that to one way or the other, and it's high time that ended.
Right. Thank you for your insights basically on the first wave and the second boom. I think that was an insightful answer for myself and our viewers as well. So, sir, it has been almost 6 years since you have started Kraftshala now. So I wanted to know, how has the journey been for you, and what do you and your team plan for the future of Kraftshala?
So it's been 4 years at Kraftshala, 6 years as an entrepreneur. I think that from our point of view, it's very much at the start of the journey for us. You see, what happens is, education in India is a very low trust category. When you think of private education, the first word that comes to your mind is IIPM. And that's a disaster, right? Because it stands for all the wrong things in India. So there is a very low trust factor in India. And then something like us comes about, Kraftshala, which says that we build our programs with practitioners. We don't even charge you upfront, we charge you later. And if you don't get a job in, then you don't even pay. And that suddenly is a proposition that doesn't even land. And as a marketing student, you'll understand this. It doesn't even land to the user that this is possible. A lot of people think that there must be a hole here. There must be there's a catch here that they're not telling us, right? And so for us, we have chosen to stand outside of these established, we've gone out and said these credentials that used to be valuable, they are no longer valuable. The industry needs a new set of credentials, and they need a new set of brands. But those brands take time to build in, because students and parents don't trust any educational brand easily. So the reason students really come to us from business schools in droves is because we've been there for 4 years. But in Marketing Launchpad, that journey started really last year. And a lot of your viewers would also be listening to us for the first time. Unfortunately for them, this is not the last time that they're listening from us. But that's just our journey, right? So we're very much at the start here. And what we are going to do bit by bit is to build in programs that show clear career tangibility, and make sure that no matter what career you're choosing in, you have essentially two things going for you. One is that you get financial stability, right? And financial and career stability. Because if you're not financially stable, then that is the thought that always keeps bothering you, that how am I going to make it, right? Where is the next step going to come from, right? And the same goes for career stability as well, right? At least you want to be in a job that you think is leading you in that right space. Yeah. So in that sense, financial stability is the first thing. The second thing is exposure to new ideas. And wherever we think that there is a need for a program and a domain where we can bring those two things, where we can bring in financial stability for our students, and we can expose them to new ideas that they're not getting exposed to, that they should be getting exposed to, that's a program that we will be building in, right? So we've just started on our journey with the Marketing Launchpad. There's going to be a lot of things that are going to come in of that kind, and we'd love to sort of build lots and lots of different programs that can cater to different career demands that students today have.
Thank you, sir. I'm looking forward to the new programs of Kraftshala, sir. So, sir, my last question and the concluding question of this interview. So, sir, currently, the schools are going online, convocations are online. Even my second year was online. So there has been a lot of unordinary circumstances going on for students and these school students. So, what advice do you have for these students as a leader, as an entrepreneur, as a human?
Uh, I think it is highly unfortunate that students who enrolled for a full-time degree are having to work online for it. But having run an online education program uh, uh, for 4 years, what I can share is that an online experience can match in substantial ways with a physical program if it is designed in the right ways. Now, the thing is that because this crisis came about so suddenly, it just, it gave no one any chance to prepare. I mean, to be fair, you can say that, oh, institutes should have been preparing for being online in any case, as they are across the world. But we know how our education system is set up. That's an unreasonable expectation to have with the way things are currently. So in that sense, the best way to approach this as a student is to put it out of your mind that that I am here and my seniors or my super seniors were got a better experience, and this has just happened when I am in, right? Because while that is a true statement, it leads you nowhere, right? It leads to despondency and despair. Anytime a crisis comes in, it helps to focus on what you can do to help resolve the situation instead of thinking about all the things that are not in your control, right? So the best way to deal with this is to simply think about how can I add value to my batch, to my community while I'm here, to make sure that the learning and the co-curricular experience continues to be interesting and validated for everyone around me. And the thing is that because this is so new for everyone, there are so many opportunities to do really, really well. And the thing about that approach is that you will probably find that what you learn from this year's experience will probably be more useful for you for the rest of your life than any other year of experience that you've had in education, because it's new, because it's unpredictable, because you've had to change so much stuff. And the way the world is working, world is moving, you'll find that connecting online is going to be pretty natural, right? So as a company, Kraftshala has already offered its employees the option of permanently working remotely even after this crisis recedes, right? And I think we're one of the first, but we're not the only one, and we'll definitely not be the only one in a few years from now, giving that option to people. So working and collaborating remotely, building relationships remotely, trying to pay attention remotely, having a good time remotely, all of those things are going to be massively important things to build in. All of that starts in today, right here, right now. And so the real question to ask is not, what would it have been if things were different? It is, now that it is there, what are all the stupendous things that I can do that can make my life better? I mean, as a student, I've sat in so many lectures that I was 100% sure were not going to add value to me when I was sitting in them. And now you don't have to sit in them, right? I mean, you're there, but you don't have to be there. So now you can go in and open up Quick Info, and that's amazingly entertaining as well. But there is no match here for about a month unless you call India Sri Lanka as a match, right? So what are you going to do with that time, right? There's so much time on your hands. What are you going to do with it, right? That's the question to ask.
Thank you for your advice, sir. I think that was brilliant advice. And thank you for taking out time from your schedule for this interview, sir. So your answers were detailed and very unique for me too, sir. I have conducted some of these interviews. These were unique and these answers were brilliant, sir. So yeah. So thank you everyone for watching this interview. Thank you.